Lloyd Vance Insider Football is back on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. So glad everybody could be with us this evening. Tag team partner Kevin Midgette. I see him on the screen. It's the new him, everybody. He's got a goatee. I thought you were supposed to grow out in November, but I guess we're doing it in January. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. A big weekend just happened. A lot of turnovers, a lot of penalties, and we're going to get into it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was on Rich Q's show, and he and I were arguing, talking a couple weeks ago about whether the wild card round was the best. And I always say it's a divisional round. I love when the other two teams that get have the bye, they step into the fray, and the games I thought proved it out in terms of there were some good games, there were some good, there were some bad, and we'll have Nate on later on in the show. He'll talk about the bad in his opinion because his Bills spit the bit. They lose to the Denver Broncos 33-30, and I think, Kevin, that's probably a great place to start in terms of this slate of games. I mean, first off, was it a catch or not a catch? Everybody's talking about it. Brandon Cooks has the ball, he goes to the ground, and then I thought the Broncos guy ripped it from him. But of course, all the NFL talking heads and rules officials, oh no, that was right call on the field. He didn't have control, and the other guy ended up the ball. But what did Kevin think of that play?
That's a catch, man. That was a catch. The thing is, I don't think Cook sold it well afterwards either. That didn't help. And the fact is, I hate these guys in the booth, these former officials, because they're going to side with whatever call is being made on the
Every time,
field.
Kevin.
It's like, why is he even there? And it happened in the other games as well when they go to their former official. He's just agreeing with what the guy is because it's their union. He's not going to throw him under the bus unless it's so blatant. But yeah, I thought it was a catch at first, to be honest. It reminded me of a catch Kenny Jackson for the Eagles back in the 80s made the same kind of catch. And it was like a big deal then because there was no replay. And it was like, no, that's a catch. So harken back to my, 12-year-old brain. That was a Kenny Jackson. That was a catch.
Well, and it's funny, Kevin, you say that because I still remember. I thought it was Mike Quick that had something similar too. It was a simultaneous catch. They used to call it back in the day, and they'd say tie goes to the receiver. They both had their arms around it, and next thing you know, they they're calling it for the offense. But this time, it's crazy, and it lends into I got a texter and a friend, Vito, who's the conspiracy theorist. See, right away, it's all fixed. Gambling's involved. They wanted them to win. I don't want to say all that, but it is a bit much with Gene Scarator and these guys immediately. They're not even. Oh, they don't need to go to New York for that replay there. It clearly was a turnover, and it goes to the Denver Broncos. Like, no, and it, out on the interweb, it's
Mhm.
everybody is talking about whether this is a catch, not a catch. And then it was crazy because I think it was the Patriots Texans game. Hutchinson, same kind of play, Kevin, and they gave him the catch. So
Mhm.
is this going to go down just like a couple of years ago in 2019 with the Saints where they jobbed them? The guy got tackled and they still, no one threw a flag magically, and the Rams went on to win. I mean, where can people go from here?
Well, let's be honest. It's like there's been conspiracy theories about games being fixed since the dawn of time. I mean, I just saw one on my timeline the other day. It was a 2002 interview with Bubba Smith from the Colts, and he was on TV saying Super Bowl III was fixed, and he said one of the guys that was involved in the fix was Earl Morrall, the starting quarterback that game
Wow.
for the Colts. They had the ball 5 times inside the 20 and didn't score 1 point. So they've been going back to fixes since then. So that being said, with the gambling as commonplace as it is now, it's even ramped up even more. So yeah, do I think it's all fixed? Yes, I do. But at the same time, you got to be on the right side of the fix. Now, obviously, there's a reason the NFL does not want Buffalo to get to the Super Bowl. There is no way because they had there. I don't know if it's the ratings or whatever, but they want no parts of that team in there.
Yeah, it was crazy, and it good. You can feel one way or the other for the Broncos. I know I have lots of Eagles fans and family. They were like, well, the Bradbury hold in the end zone against the Chiefs, nobody was crying for them then. So there's always going to be that play where that's so controversial, and you're like, oh my god, they're rooting for somebody else. I harken back to the Raiders and Rich Gannon. I know they're still crying about that tuck rule. Charles Woodson he said, to my grave, I will call that a fumble game over. But no, the tuck rule, rule 4576C states, a
Mhm.
rule nobody even's ever heard of. And it's just frustrating. So, back to the game itself, Kevin, what a great watch. I mean, the Buffalo Bills were a 1.5 point favorite. And, they were, they go on mute. And they were scrapping and trying to get into this thing. And unfortunately for Josh Allen, a lot of people, well, maybe fortunately him, they'll forget about his performance itself. Two interceptions, sacked 3 times. He had those 2 fumbles. I mean, with everybody's going to talk about that catch, not a catch, but what do you think in terms of the actual game? Do you feel the best team won? And to Denver's credit, they got it done. But unfortunately, they lose Bo Nix in the process, and we got to start talking about Jared Stidham in the next round.
Buffalo has nobody to blame but themselves. You can't turn the ball over 5 times, and especially like within like the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half. I mean, they gave up 3 scores right there. I mean, Josh Allen, he has to protect the ball if he's going to run like that in that situation right before halftime. You gave him 3 points right there. There was just the turnovers. I mean, if Cook does not fumble that ball, Buffalo might just dog walk him at that point. They were going for their second touchdown, jump up early on him, and who knows where the game would have went since then. I mean, I think that was the biggest play in that game, to be honest, because he
Yeah,
doesn't fumble that ball, it goes a different way.
and Kevin, that's very early in the game because they were driving the football, as you said, and then Alex Singleton comes from the side, knocks that ball out. That was huge. And it just, what could go wrong did go wrong for the Bills. And as you said, some of these things they got to look in the mirror and say, okay, we screwed it up. Yes, at the end, officials kind of got involved with that catch, non-catch, and the big controversial two, pass interference penalties in the OT. But they shouldn't even been in that situation, in my opinion. And I think that had a lot to do with Sean McDermott. And do you think Sean McDermott being let go today had direct and cause and effect to what happened against the Denver Broncos this weekend?
Yeah, I do. I mean, they've been talking about firing McDermott for about 2 or 3 years now. So, I mean, it was almost like, all right, what's going to be the last straw? So, obviously, unbeknownst to any of us, McDermott must have been in a Super Bowl or bust kind of, position for his job. And the fact he didn't get it done, it's like they want to try something else. The players, though, they don't seem too happy with it, though. A lot of them have come out actually and said they disapprove of it.
Yeah, McDermott defended his players, and he actually may have got himself in hot water in terms of that play call, the catch non-catch, because on the flight back to Buffalo, he got in touch with a reporter friend, and he gave the guy a report, basically calling the NFL out on that play for not replaying it and kind of siding with the Denver instead of the Bills where it was a catch non-catch. He was very frustrated. So, he always had some good will equity between the Pagulias who owned the team and Sean McDermott. 9 seasons with them, he turned everything around, got them to the playoffs. It had been a long time for success for them. He even got him to playoffs with Tyrod Taylor. I mean, that just talked a lot, and I think it was crazy because you had Brandon Bean, a guy who he kind of brought in at general manager spot coming over from Carolina. He gets the promotion, and then they kick Sean McDermott out the door. So is this conspiracy theory at its best, Kevin?
It's not a friend, I'll tell you that much. And obviously, I think the call came from a higher position than the general manager at that point to get rid of McDermott. I just don't understand how the general manager keeps his job. I mean, you sit there, you don't surround Josh Allen with any real weapons besides Cook. I mean, you just bring in guys here and there. You try Diggs maybe for a season. I mean, the defense you're not really drafting well. So I mean, I think the GM has to go at the same time, but apparently he's going to stay.
Yeah, and we'll get into the other 3 games out there, but I wanted to bring in our Bills expert, He's up there in Northeast Pennsylvania. Nate Vance, he's a hurting Bills fan, and we're gonna bring Nate in and talk some Bills and their future.
Yeah, I think that out of all the losses, I think this one hurts the most over the past couple of years. Obviously, you've had Mahomes take us out millions of times. You had Burrow the one year, but this was supposed to be the year, and this team finds another way to sell like they always do, like they've always been, just a bunch of losers, man. And they did it again. They found a way.
Yeah, I always told you about growing up in Philadelphia and the Eagles losing 4 straight NFC Championship games, and they finally got to Super Bowl and lost. So I understand. I know how it is, a hurting fan base, and you're the ire. Everybody's calling in, texting you, I'm sure, to rub it in. But Kevin, what did you think of this Bill situation?
The one thing, Nate, I empathize with you definitely after going through all the Eagles years, but you have to ask yourself now at a certain point, is Buffalo ever going to get to the Super Bowl? Not win a Super Bowl, get to one, just for the fact. I mean, the road was there for him now. They had, Mahomes was out, Joe Burrow wasn't there. I mean, they had all their way to go with it. And now you have the young guys coming up. Now Drake May, Bo Nix, even though he has an injury, he's going to be back. He's going to be a problem. So you have to ask yourself, as a Buffalo Bills supporter, is it ever going to happen?
Yeah. At this point, I would tell you no. Like you said, you have all these young guys coming up. There's You still have Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. They're gonna be back next year, back better than ever. The Ravens are getting a new coach. Mahomes, he's not going to be out for forever. This was the year, and it really did sell to a team that was not on their level, in my opinion. You saw them just move. They didn't punt once in this game. They had 6 scoring drives, and then the other 5 were all turnovers. You can't win like that. And the Broncos were the better team on that day, and I'll give them props. But yeah, there was just a collection. I just wanted to go into why they lost. There's 3 big reasons for me on why they did lose.
Oh,
Um,
bring it, baby.
First one is somewhat of an excuse. I think injuries really killed us this year. We're the second most injured team in the league behind the 49ers this year. There were crucial parts in that game, like when the Broncos were driving at the end of the half to score when the score was 10-10. Cam Lewis, who was our backup safety for Jordan Poyer, who was out during that game, he gets injured for a play and he has to come out of the game. And they bring Darnell Savage in. And as soon as I saw him in the game, he hasn't played a single snap for us all year. They just pulled him up from the practice squad. I knew he was about to get blurred for a touchdown. I knew it.
He's
Next thing
there,
you know,
Isel Jenkins.
he's playing weak side safety. They run a backside post at him. He's overrunning it. Touchdown to little Jordan Humphrey. And at the end of the game, when the Bills were up 27-23, this one hurt the most. Tre'Davious White goes down for a play. He has to step out for a play. First thing, Dane Jackson comes in, and if Buffalo Bills fans know Dane Jackson, they know he's been terrible for us all year. Every single time he's came in, and what do you know? Sean McDermott runs a blitz, runs man-to-man coverage. They run a wheel route up the sideline with Marvin Mims on Dane Jackson, and that's just game time right there. And they give up an easy touchdown right there. So I think injuries played a big part in why we lost this one. Second one, it's Brandon Beane. He is a terrible GM. He's a terrible GM. For years now, he's drafted only 2 Pro Bowlers in his 9 years as the tenure of the Buffalo Bills. How is that possible for a perennial playoff team that makes it to the playoffs year in and year out? How is that possible for a team to only have 2 Pro Bowlers? We've only had 8 All Pros, and you compare that to teams like the Ravens. The Ravens had 6 themselves this year. How have we only had 8 All Pros? It just speaks to how good of a player Josh Allen is, which he's next. He's the biggest reason why we lost this game, but it just proves how he's carrying this roster year in and year out. And the fact that Brandon Beane was not only not fired, but the fact that he got promoted is just insane to me. And I really feel like they made a bad mistake letting go of Sean McDermott and keeping him, because I feel like he is the biggest problem with the organization. My third person third reason why we lost this game is because of Josh Allen. He's my favorite player, but he sold us, man. I've defended him in the past, but I can't. I was telling my dad I can't defend him any longer. That was terrible. 4 turnovers in the biggest game of your life. The pressure got to him, and that's what it was. I don't think he's a clutch player. He's had the ball 3 years in a row now with a chance to win the game. He's gotten a total of 3 points. People need to stop comparing him to Mahomes. He's not Mahomes. Mahomes is one of the greatest players of all time. Josh, I love him, but he will never be that. And he's
Well,
closer to Matt Ryan than he is to Patrick Mahomes, and he will never be as close to that player until he gets it done. And he may prove me wrong one day. He might get it done, and the Bills might get it done with new head coach maybe, but he's
all
just
right.
not on that level. He's him and Lamar Jackson are right on that same tier, wherever you want to rank them. But they both are just players that, in my opinion, will never get it done in the playoffs, and they're known playoff chokers. And that's what Josh Allen proved to everybody and to the world on Saturday, that he's a playoff choker.
All right, Nate Vance getting it off his chest, Kevin. I mean, he had it all written down. He had the facts, the figures. This is how I started in all this mess. I used to write it all down and my commentary, and I used to send it to our buddy Ray Dittinger, who's been on the show. I used to email him with that, and he used to tell me. He said, "Lloyd, you know too much not to share it." You know what I mean? So I think Nate's on that track and he's passionate about his team. But yeah, I wanted to ask you guys and about Josh Allen. They built a new stadium. Uh, he's their face of their team. I think the NFL is kind of getting like the NBA, where when you're paying a guy $50 million, he is having input into the whole operation. And I'm hearing that he's already talking to his friend Davis Webb, who used to be the backup and now he's the QB's coach for the Broncos, about maybe taking his head coaching job. So, what do you think in terms of Allen, Kevin, and the makeup of a possibly offensive influence Bills now?
I think it's a horrible idea. I hate it when LeBron does it for every team that he's ever been on. I mean, I think the players need to be the players and the coaches need to be the coaches. That being said, though, I mean, do you think there's any like second guessing remorse on Harbaugh or Stefanski's side right now? If they would have known that Buffalo job was popping up, do you think they would have taken that Giants and Falcons job? Because right now, if you're Buffalo, it's like, who are you bringing in? And I always say it's like people want to get rid of a coach, especially a coach that's been successful, but who are you bringing in? And that's going to be interesting to see what Buffalo does.
Yeah, I think definitely Stefanski probably would be in the mix there. Or the thing is, Harbaugh, he got that record salary. He got 5 years, $100 million more than Sean Payton, anybody, and he's going to be buying the groceries, cooking the meal. I think it's just a matter of time before Joe Shane's out of there with the Giants. So, yeah, they probably, the timing of the whole thing, they could have probably cast a wider net. But I'm hearing, Josh Allen is going to have a seat at the table. What do you think about that, Nate?
He shouldn't. What has he done for the team besides get us to these big games and not win these games? He should not have a seat at the table. Like Kevin said, players should play and the front office should handle this. But then, yet again, I don't trust Brandon Beane to be able to hire the right head coach. If they bring in Davis Webb, that will be a terrible mistake if they bring him in to be the head coach. I don't think they need any of these failed head coaches that were previous offensive coordinators, Brian DeBall, Mike McDaniel, none of these guys. They don't need none of these guys. They need a tone setter that's going to bring commitment and passion to this team and someone that's going to really make this team tough because everybody saw what they were doing after the game. They were all crying, and that they need someone tough in there that's going to instill culture in there and get these guys to play big in these big moments. I really think they should really look at another defensive guy. I think Brian Flores would be a great hire. I think, or Mike Tomlin would really be a great hire. I know a lot of people don't like that, but I really think Mike Tomlin with a good quarterback is a proven winner. And yeah, I would really like to have Mike Tomlin as the Bills' next head coach or Brian Flores.
And that's going to be interesting because Nate, you talk about like a defensive coach, and you need somebody with a plan, and you see with the teams that are left, they have strong coaches that came in there. You have McDonald going with the Seattle Seahawks. He came over from the University of Michigan and the Ravens with that toughness, he cleaned up that Seattle roster. And then the biggest one, Gerard Mayo, 1 year he's with the Patriots, and they clean house, get rid of him, bring in a lot of free agents. But Vrabel has these guys clicking. So, Kevin, is there anybody you think should go to the Bills, or what do you think in terms of the two candidates Nate was talking about? Flores. I'm hearing possibly that Tomlin is going to take that year off because he's kind of burned out.
Yeah, I think Tomlin's going to take the year off as well. But man, that'd be a great landing spot. I tell you what, if you sat there and ended up in Buffalo with Josh Allen as your quarterback. Josh Allen now has turned into the Donovan McNabb of the early 2000s, by the way. He's doing the great stuff during the regular season. That Josh Allen turnover game that he just had reminded me of the Donovan McNabb championship game against Carolina, the Ricky Manning Jr. game, where he just kept throwing interception after interception to Ricky Manning Jr., who you never heard from again. The head coach, I think it's going to be somebody we haven't heard yet, to be honest. I think there's somebody like Lane. They're going to take a little bit of time. There's plenty of guys that still interview, that's for sure, because there's only been 2 vacancies filled. So I think they're going to do some time and think about this and do their due process. But yeah, I think it's somebody we haven't heard yet.
Yeah, and the interesting thing with these head coaching carousel, and I'm hearing that Jeff Halfley, the defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers, is going to take the Miami Dolphins job. That I don't know if that's been announced or if it's coming down. And then also, I'm hearing that the Tennessee Titans are deciding between Robert Salah, who's the defensive coordinator for the Niners, and then you also have Matt Nagy, who is the offense coordinator with the Chiefs. There in the mix. It's and Nagy still, he may be the guy, because today I heard that Eric Bieniemy is going back after one season, a couple seasons away, to be the offensive coordinator underneath Andy Reid for the Chiefs. So, Nate, what do you think about any of those situations? Are these coaches up and comers? Are these teams making the right decision? What are you thinking in terms of, those couple jobs I talked about there?
Yeah, I think hiring Matt Nagy would be a mistake. I think if you look at Patrick Mahomes since he's taken over as offensive coordinator, Mahomes' numbers have dropped dramatically. I don't think he was that good of a coach in Chicago, so um, I, I think teams should stay away from him. But I think Salah, I think he got did dirty with the Jets. I think he's a pretty solid coach. He had that defense always up to par, ready to play. It's just kind of the Jets, so they always just kind of stink. So anyone that goes there stinks. So I think he deserves another shot. I think he'd be a pretty good coach. Um, and yeah, a couple of those other guys are all these guys are kind of just hit or miss. It's not that great of a year for head coaching candidates. I think someone should scoop up Sean McDermott immediately. I think he's a really good coach. I think you'll see him get hired again by one of these teams immediately. Um, but
Yeah,
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 if I was the Titans, I'd probably go with Salah.
yeah, and I think the Titans they're probably going to go with a retread, somebody as like those two guys I talked about, former head coaches and who kind of failed, and they understand what the job entails. Sometimes you're just not sure what you're going to get when you could promote somebody that's a uh, former position coach. So yeah, we'll see about those situations. Kevin, what do you think about those openings that I talked about there? And should anybody take the Raiders or the Browns job?
Yeah, why not? Because there's only 32 of these jobs, so you might as well sit there and get one if you can. Just for the fact that Salah did get done dirty by the Jets, but who the hell's winning with the Jets anyway? I mean, you could dig up Vince Lombardi, you're not winning with the Jets. So the one thing though, if he takes that Titans gig, you need to get somebody to help develop Cam Ward. That's for sure. Because you got a number one pick invested in that guy, and you got to make sure you got to find out what you have with that. Because everyone in my mind gets a year to learn the craft. They get a year to the different schedules, the traveling, and everything else. Next year, you want to see some progression from Cam Ward. So I mean, if you could have had a year where like Ben Johnson was popping out, that would have been the fit. So it's going to be interesting. But Salah definitely, I think, deserves another shot somewhere.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how these coaches shake out. I'm hearing everybody is going down to the Senior Bowl in a couple weeks, and all they want their staffs in place. So I think you're going to see a lot of movement on some of these jobs pretty quickly. Uh, I bet the Ravens one will be the next one to fall. They're casting a wide net, though. Steve Bisciotti and Eric DeCosta, the general manager, they are firmly in the seat, and I heard that's what was happening with John Harbaugh. He kind of was clashing with the owner and the general manager, and they're probably going to bring in somebody that they could work with. And you can't fight with management. That's a big thing in terms of these coaches, and you know once you're in good graces with them, that's fine. But things could turn very quickly, as we've seen throughout the years in Philadelphia here. Look at Doug Peterson. I mean, he wins a Super Bowl and what, he's out in 2 years. I mean, it's kind of unprecedented, and it's a what have you done for the lately league. We'll see how this all kind of turns around. But yes, I like Nate said, I do believe that Sean McDermott is going to get some calls. I kind of feel like the Steelers and the Cardinals could be two air teams that could look at him, and they would give him an opportunity. He's a Pennsylvania guy, and maybe the Steelers would give him that opportunity to work with that defense. And then the Cardinals, they want somebody that's going to bring in there and have a plan, and I think Sean would bring that to them. So uh, very interesting times around the National Football League. Also, keep an eye on uh, coaches that are represented by Bob Lamont. He is the power agent of coaches around the National Football League. Andy Reid, Spagnuolo, Peterson, Roseman, Zach Taylor, they're all represented by him. He has a whole Rolodex of coaches, and I think he's going to have an opportunity, one of his guys. So we're here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. I'm here with Kevin Midgette, Nate Vance. We thoroughly went over the Bills, and we're going to jump off the Bills and let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks in terms of their game. It wasn't even close. They were very beat up. The Eagles left them for dead, and then the Seahawks picked up the pieces. So, Kevin, let's talk about this game a little bit. The Seahawks and the Niners, 41-6 win.
That game was over before it started. I mean, there's no way you could even look at that game on paper and think that San Francisco could have won that game. They would have needed Seattle to once have one of those games where there's multiple turnovers, things. I mean, as soon as you get a kickoff or a touchdown to start it out, just pack up the gear, man. It's over. As soon as he had that run back, that was game right there. They were, decimated with injuries, and I mean, like I said a week or two ago, this is Shanahan's best job of coaching, I think, to get that 49er team to this far into the season. I thought he did a good job, but that was as far as they were going.
Yeah, I thought the 49ers had a tremendous year. Shanahan has the best year coaching. I think that Christian McCaffrey really carried the squad well this year. I don't know how he stayed healthy all year, but props to him. Everybody else getting injured, but McCaffrey stayed healthy. And they just ran out of bodies at the end of the season, and they just weren't able to compete with a better roster in Seattle.
Yeah, it's a situation where Nate, go on mute, and then where it's where Rashid Shaheed gets the kickoff and he goes 95 yards, and it was over from there. And an interesting thing is we're going to see how Sam Darnold plays, you know, after this, because he had, let's face it, he had it easy this time. He was 12 of 17, 124, one touchdown. He really didn't have to put a football in harm's way. And, you know, he kind of got off light. So they split the two games with the Rams, and we're going to see how he does. But everybody is wondering, against the Rams last year in the wild card round, he was sacked 9 times in the 27-9 loss. So we're going to see how that goes. But yeah, that wasn't a lot there. And what impressed me, Kevin, and talk about this a little bit, and we'll have Nate chime in after. And the Seattle defense, a lot of people are not talking about them. They're good in all three phases. I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigma he had 3 catches, he had a touchdown, but then he was kind of quiet. They didn't even need him. They had Walker running the football downhill. Just about Seattle and how dangerous they are.
They've kind of flown under the radar most of the season, even though they were accumulating wins. I mean, one thing we learned after this weekend is the NFC West was the best division in football. There was no doubt about it. And it's one of those things. I remember when we did our forecasting for the first time the Rams and Seattle played, and I took the Rams because they were playing in Los Angeles. Second time I took Seattle because they're playing in Seattle. This time right now, I'm not going to say my pick, but I think definitely you can say with Seattle's defense, the way they're playing right now, and getting a home game on top of that, and on top of that, Matt Stafford has not looked the same in about a month and a half. So with that defense teeing up on him and getting pressure on a guy who can't run, I mean, it looks good for them.
Yeah, Nate. What do you think about Seattle? Are they a complete enough team, and can they overcome Darnold? Because, I was looking back at those two games that they played, and in what was it, week 11, or when they played the first time? Yeah, it was week 11. Darnold, 4 interceptions in that game. Yes, the Rams won by 2 points, but if he has that type of game, I don't think they have much of a chance.
Yeah, I know Seahawks. I have a lot of friends that are Seahawks fans. I just don't think Sam Darnold's good enough to get them to the Super Bowl. I'm gonna be taking the Rams in this game. Um, I think that Sam Darnold, he had 6 turnovers in the 2 games that he played against the Rams this year. And if you look back to last year when he played the Rams twice during the season, the Rams had his number. I think Chris Shula has his number. The DC, he's a really good DC over there. I think they just have his number. He's coming off that oblique injury as well. I have a lot of props for what they did this year. Um, they really had a great season this year, flew under the radar, like Kevin was saying. They have quietly won a top 5 defense in the league. They really have that run game going with Clint Kubiak, and JSN is one of the best receivers in the league. So they're definitely a very respectable team this year. They have a chance to win the Super Bowl. It's all going to come down to Sam Darnold, and he has that oblique injury, which he didn't really have to throw the ball a lot against the Niners because it was over before the game even started. As soon as the first kick return touchdown happened, I think everybody knew they were going to win. But this is going to be a closer game where he's going to have to throw the ball more and more, and we're going to see how legit he actually is.
Yeah, and we're going to get our answer, and we'll preview that game coming up. But yeah, I thought the Seahawks just totally dominated there, and was it 17-6 at the half, and then McDonald, he's really gotten smart. Him and Clint Kubiak, the offense coordinator there, they ran the football and they beat that clock up, and then they allow that defense to do their thing. Their young safety, Yari, I mean, he's probably going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's played extremely well for them. And as I said, all 3 levels of the defense, the special teams, are very good for this team. It's going to be interesting, though. Is it going to be a come down to like week 16 where they had to go to overtime, those two teams, and the Seahawks won on a 2-point conversion? So we're talking NFC divisional round, AFC divisional round here in Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on 1029, the Game Coast Sports Digital Network. I'm joined by Kevin Midgette and Nate Vance. Let's jump to the next game. And this one, to me, guys, I, I I was pretty sure about this one as much as I am about the Seahawks. The New England Patriots win 28-16 over the Houston Texans. But the story has got to be C.J. Stroud. I mean, he was awful in this game. I was on Rich's show earlier, and he was saying they should have benched him. I mean, we don't see that nowadays, Kevin, in these types of games. I remember when you and I were coming on, Kevin, there was Don Strock would come off the bench for the Miami Dolphins, and they put David Woodley on the bench, and he'd make a big play. But they don't go to the bullpen much in the National Football League. And I thought that the Patriots did a nice job in dominating this game. It was 14-10 at the half, and then they just opened it up with 28 points in the fourth quarter. Talk about C.J. Stroud's performance and the Patriots. Are they for real, Kevin?
Two-part question there. CJ Stroud stinks. Let's be honest about that. Our show last week was up against the Pittsburgh-Houston game, and we did our lackey of the week and everything else already. So there's still like the whole second half of that game to go. I text Lloyd during the second half. I'm like, is it too late to do my lackey for CJ Stroud? Because that's how bad he was in that game, and they still won because of that defense. That defense kept him in the game as long as they did because CJ Stroud stinks, man. He is horrible. There's no way that guy has any confidence whatsoever now. These 2 playoff games he's played. They're like, oh, he's taken the division round 3 years in a row. What has he done this year? What has he done? Davis Mills played all right when he had to come in this year for him. And you get to a point, you're in the playoff game, a go-home game. I'm surprised Davis Mills didn't come in the game. I'm not going to lie on that one. I mean, I know Nico Collins was out. I'm Christian Kirk. I mean, he only had 2 catches after the big game he had last week. I don't know why, even though he had 6 targets. I mean, C.J. Stroud can't find a receiver, so that's one point right there. Is New England is dominant? New England's having a hell of a year, man. They really are. I mean, they can go to anybody. Butte, by the way, is turned into all world in the playoffs here. And it's just like they didn't even have to run the ball down their throat. Well, they couldn't, first of all. But it's like Drake May was just beating them with his arm. I mean, they have many different ways they can attack you, and they're going to be a tough out.
Yeah, I agree that New England, they have that look, and you're starting to wonder. Tom Brady in his second season went to the Super Bowl, and you're wondering, is Drake May going to be able to do it? And they have that two-headed monster, Ramondre Stevenson, 16 rushes for 70 yards. Henderson was a little bit more quiet, 12 rushes, 25 yards, but they keep the chains moving. The defense is opportunistic with all those free agents, Spillane, Milton Williams, and then you can't talk about that team without talking about Christian Gonzalez. He can just shut down one side of the field. Nate, what do you think about the New England Patriots?
Yeah, I haven't been a believer of them all year. I said that they had a soft schedule. I said that their time will come in the playoffs, but it's looking like they're going to go to the Super Bowl now that they get to play Jarrett Stidham. Uh, I'm not going to sit up here and say that it was an easy ride or anything like that, even though they got to play if man Justin Herbert in the first round and CJ Stroud, who Kevin said, and I completely agree, is terrible. I've been saying it all year. It's terrible. Um, but the Patriots are a real team. They're good on both sides of the ball. Drake May is the MVP or the runner up for MVP. He runs an efficient offense. They have a really good run game with Ramondre Stevenson and Trevion Henderson. And then their defense is opportunistic. And you saw that in the game. They had 4 turnovers in the first half alone. And Milton Williams was a huge sign for them this offseason, coming over from the Eagles. And he's just been unstoppable for them this year and when he's been healthy. And he really changes that defense. And they have him on the field right now, and he's balling. So, yeah, they're a real team, and they really have surprised a lot of people. And I just want to say it's not fair that they get 20 years of just greatness. They're bad for about 2 3 years. Now they're back to being one of the best teams in the league. I mean, Boston fans got it good, man.
Yeah, they win it. They win at basketball. Nobody's crying for them. If they lose and this doesn't turn out, they did suffer through the Jimmy G years, the year or whatever. Remember, Cam was up there too during
Mm-hmm.
COVID. But it's yeah, it's like Nate said, it's just like wow, they turned that thing around so quickly. It showed you how Belichick was, his message got stale. He was old, and then their handpicked guy, Gerard Mayo, he did terrible. And Robert Kraft, to his credit, he said, you know what, I'm not sitting through this. He got rid of him after 1 year, and Kevin, talk a little bit about Brable and what Elliott Wolf, their general manager, have done with this Patriots team. And heading into this matchup, they got to feel pretty good in terms of where they are and in their future as a team.
Oh, the sky's the limit for these guys. I mean, they sit there, they draft well continuously. I mean, you got Drake May, man. You got a 10-year window right here of just sitting there going to championship games and, Super Bowls. So, I mean, Travion Henderson's young. I mean, they've got young guys all across the board. The one thing that's going to work in their favor, though, Denver can't run the ball. Harvey can't take those hits. McLaughlin's not going to get it done. And the thing is, they were being successful was Bo Nix getting out there and running. Stidham can't run like Bo Nix. So, I mean, is it a soft schedule for New England to get to the Super Bowl? The road less traveled? Yeah, a little bit. I mean, things just broke their way. And sometimes that's what you need to get to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, we're going to see how it plays out. But, yeah, it's looking good for them.
Yeah, New England, and looking at the stats, as you guys, C.J. Stroud was just awesome. Well, 20 of 47 for 212, one TD, 4 interceptions, and then Drake May just kind of stayed the course, 16 to 27, 179, 3 TDs. He did have an interception, which was a Hail Mary. I mean, you got to count it. He didn't run as much, 4 rushes, 10 yards, but he keeps the chains moving. He's efficient, and I think he's going to be this year's MVP. I mean, guys, am I wrong here? Are they going to give it to Stafford, or do you think it's Drake May? Nate, go first.
I would give it to Stafford personally. I thought he had the better year. I think when you're looking at MVP, you do got to take into account that easy schedule that he did play. Stafford played the most top 10 defenses in the league, and he still put up 48, 40 whatever touchdowns and only like 5 interceptions. So I think he had a really good year. And Drake May will have his chance to win MVPs. He's already established that he's going to be a great quarterback for a while in this league. I think for Stafford, he already got that Super Bowl ring. I think this is like legacy defining for him to make him people truly respect what he did over his career. And I think Stafford's the MVP.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Nate on that one. I think it's Stafford. I think what Stafford's 37 now. I mean, he's sitting here. We didn't even know if he was going to start the season. He's getting shots in his back and everything else. So the fact that he played as well as he did, and those first 3 months were incredible numbers he was hanging too. It's the month of December where a little wear and tear got him a little bit, but for the course of the season, he outperformed Drake May in my opinion. I mean, New England might have had the better record, but Stafford did more for his team, I think, than Drake May did.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting race to see if guys filled out their ballots, before the playoffs or not, and because Stafford's playing at an extremely high level, as you guys said, but I just have a feeling Drake May, he's the new flavor, of the season. He's young, and they probably want to give him his due, and there's sometimes they say there is a Northeast bias to the bigger markets, and he's in Boston, so I think he may squeak it out over Matthew Stafford, and then you talk about that what if, because there's been some guys that have won MVP, and it may have not been a blessed, it may have been a curse. You know what I mean? Like they never were you look at a Boomer Esiason, he won the MVP, and his career was kind of a what if. After that, with the Bengals, he never was kind of the same player. So we'll see how Drake May does here.
Yeah.
For your
By the way, Lloyd, throw Cam Newton into that mix too while you're at it.
Oh, there it is. Yes,
Yep.
the shoulder.
Uh,
Didn't jump on that fumble. He still defends it on all his podcasts. He's on ESPN now. Well, he should have jumped on that fumble.
he's a clown. Cam Newton is a clown.
Well, he dresses kind of like it.
He's like the bad guy against Willy Wonka or something like that. Some of the outfits he had. Just he's a pick me girl. He's a pick me girl. That's what he is.
I think he should be in like an old school '70s movie with like Fred the Hammer Williamson. The way he dresses and stuff. So, Nate, what do you think about Cam in terms of or any of these past MVPs? Will that be kind of how we look at Drake May if he wins it?
No, because I think Drake May is so young. I don't know how old Drake May is exactly, but I assume he's around 23, 24 years old. So he has so much time left. Cam played a physical style of football and broke down, but I think you guys are disrespecting Cam a little bit. That 2015 Cam season was one of the greatest carry jobs I've ever seen personally. Was thrown to Ted Ginn and whoever, Jericho Cotchery, and come on, man, that was a great season. Cam's an all-timer.
Oh my God! Stop him!
He's an all-timer. Are you putting him in the Hall of Fame?
I blame the parents on this one. No.
Well, there's the new generation.
Cam's not a Hall of Famer, but as you like to say, he's Hall of Very Good. He didn't have the longevity. That's why he won't get in the Hall of Fame. But you can stack up that 2015 season with that player of all time, and a lot of the time I'm gonna take Cam Newton. So. But going back to Drake May, I think he's got a lot of great more years to come.
All right, we'll see. And the MVP race is always heating up, and we'll see how the voters go. I recently had to send in my ballot for Pro Football Writers Association, so we'll see. I actually missed the deadline, so
Good job, Lloyd. Good job.
the awards are fixed anyway.
Facts.
I shouldn't say that, but all right, we got one more game to talk about, and I want to get Kevin's take. We'll start with him. The Rams win 2017 in overtime over the Chicago Bears and Kevin's guy, Caleb Williams.
I tell you what, I I can't remember the last time I've seen a guy I've hammered and bashed on so much that's starting to win me over. Watching Caleb Williams play these last couple of weeks, man, there's some things about his game I don't like, but man, he's not scared of the moment. He jumps in there. There's no quitting that guy, you know? He can do it multiple ways as well. I mean, it just comes with time and experience, some of these things, you know? It's like the bad pick and everything else, and he had a hell of a year, man. I was not high on that guy at all, and the fact the way he played, especially in that Packers game, and even how he was like showing up yesterday, even though they lost. Caleb Williams kind of won me over. I'm not going to lie, man. I'll take that one back. I'll take it back.
How about you, Nate, in terms of Caleb Williams? What do you think? Do you
Yeah,
think?
Kevin apologized, and I'll take a win for that one because I was
Yeah.
telling him all summer about Caleb Williams. I knew he was the truth. He had a great season, and it's sad that they lost that game. He threw a bad pick at the end of the game, but it's sad that we won't remember that throw because that's the greatest throw I've ever seen. Off his back foot, 4 people in his face, run 4 yards backwards, and it was a little lucky, but man, he put that right on the money, and that was an insane throw. It sucks that they didn't get the win. I think a lot of people were rooting for them, but he had a bad interception at the end of the game. But he really turned the corner this year with Ben Johnson, and you really see the flashes of what he's going to become. As he could, there's not a lot of players that can say this in the league, but he could generally be the best player in the league. He has that much raw talent. If he can clean up his mechanics and become a little bit more accurate, I think he will most definitely become the best player in the league because you see the off script stuff that he can do for his team, throwing off one leg, rolling out of the pocket. He's quicker than a lot of people give him credit for too. He's fast, man, when he hits that edge. Um, he had a great season, and Chicago fans should be. I know it sucks that you guys lost in the playoffs, but this was a huge step, and this year was a huge step for you guys as an organization, and they should be really happy about what they did this year and what Ben Johnson brought to the team. And Caleb Williams had the most passing yards ever in his second season in Bears history. So the Bears as an organization should be really happy as where they're at right now.
Yeah, the Bears. They what 5 wins last year. They get rid of Matt Eberflus and Ben Johnson comes in there. He's got that moxie, man. He's ripping off his shirt in the locker room when they beat the Eagles and flexing and he's got these young guys believing. I mean, he's been the Caleb Williams whisperer. I mean, in the game, Williams 23 of 42, 257, 2 TDs, and 3 interceptions. He did rush for 40 yards. And as Nate said, little inconsistent, but he made the gotta have it play. I mean, he's drifting back, throws that ball to Komet and changes this game, sends it to overtime. But you got to say in the playoffs, turnovers are the most important. Stafford, 20 of 42. I know he wants that percentage higher, but 258, no touchdowns, no interceptions. They were leaning on their running game. I mean, Kyron Williams, a guy who I beat up, and I probably should apologize to because I always said he was kind of soft, but he got 21 rushes for 87 yards, 2 TDs for the Rams, and they were running with him, Blake Corum, and Puka, 5 catches, 10 targets, 56 yards. So, Kevin, talk a little bit about the Rams and, you know, where do both these teams go from here?
Well, I want to run you by a little story last night of a guy who had a 6-leg parlay, and he hit 5 of them, and all he needed was Puka Nakua to get 70 yards receiving. Yeah, that's got to happen, right? That's easy. Thanks a lot, Puka. Appreciate it.
Stop gambling.
Yeah, it's only gambling when you lose, man. When you win, it's just being smarter than everyone. Anyway, going on though, the Rams. One thing people have to once again take into consideration: the elements in that game were no joke. I mean, with the wind blowing, the snow coming down in the beginning. I mean, it was for Stafford not to throw a pick in that game. That's impressive right there, to be honest. Because you figured just some odd thing was going to happen. A ball bounces one way to be at least one. So for Stafford to steer clear of that was huge. I think the Rams got to get Devontae Adams involved a little more, though. I think people they were gearing up for Puka Nakua is what it was. They tried to get Higbee involved also. The Kyron Williams Blake Corum combo right there. I mean, you got 2 running backs. You need 2 running backs in these situations. Change of pace guy even. So the Rams going forward though, they got to be happy where they are. I mean, McVay put him in that 1-game situation, see what he can turn into. But It's going to be tough going into Seattle for him.
Yeah, and it was a good win for him, but they have to have a short memory, as you said, and then get ready for a Seattle team that's tough. They split with them this season when they played twice. I ran down those scores earlier. It was week 11, close win for Seattle, and in week 18, week 16, on just December 18th, it was a Thursday night game. I mean, that game was incredible. Seattle raced a 16-point fourth quarter lead, and they got the game winning 2-point conversion in that one by Sam Darnold. He's, you know, shut up a lot of people with that win, but he did have two interceptions in that game. Uh, was it a surprise to either of you that now we have two teams from the NFC West in the NFC Championship? I mean, uh, was there anybody else you thought could possibly be there, Nate?
Yeah, I thought they're. I This was the guy all off season. I was saying the Cardinals were going to be the team in the NFC West. So
Oh my God, hold your
I
nose.
was I was completely wrong about that. I did not. If anything, I thought it would have been the Niners. Maybe I had three teams from this division going. I didn't have the Seahawks anywhere near this. I didn't think Sam Darnold was going to be any good with the Seahawks, but that team proved me wrong, and they're ran by their defense. And now looking back at it, we all should have seen the signs that Mike McDonald, he's a good coach, great coach, and that defense is formidable, and they had a great season. So I don't think anybody should be surprised about the NFC side of things, but in terms of the AFC side, I think everybody should be surprised. I don't think these two teams, nobody, I don't think anybody had making the AFC Championship, and the Broncos and the Patriots. If you would have placed a bet on that, I'm sure you would have cashed out for millions. So, um, yeah, not too surprised about the Seahawks and the Rams.
How about you?
I mean, in the NFC, like I said it earlier, I mean, it was the best division in football, so I am not shocked at all that the two teams in the championship game came from that division. The other divisions weren't as good. The NFC East was not as good. The Eagles weren't as good. You look at the NFC, the South, obviously not as good. You know, the North, no, not as good. So yeah, I'm not shocked by that at all. Going to Denver against New England, Denver, you knew was better. You knew Peyton did a good job the year before getting him moved into the playoffs. The fact is, with Bo Nix guiding that team, I did not see them as a championship team. And New England, there was no way in hell I thought they were going to be in the championship. So yeah, I'm shocked by both of those.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by by the end of the season by the Patriots and the Broncos as well as they played. I mean, both these teams you're talking about now are 15-3. I mean, they won a lot of football games and close games. Where it's showing the championship pedigree of these coaches. We have Vrabel's won before as a player, and he would start with the Steelers. I mean, I think under Bill Cowher. So I mean, the guy has been around some winning organizations, and then you talk about what Sean Payton, you know, he's going to have to pull every trick out of his bag in order to help Stidham win this game. It's funny because I've been hearing all the talking heads. They want their ratings. Oh, Stidham can do it. Stidham can do it. And I'm like, hold on with Stidham. I mean, I went back and I said, all right, well, let me look at the Stidham. The last time he started was 2023, and it was a two-game situation. He beat, I think, the Chargers by a close margin, and then in the other game he lost to the Raiders and Aiden O'Connell. You know what I mean? Where he did not play very well. So it's going to be a tough assignment for them. But before we look at the upcoming two games, fellas, why don't we do our favorite thing everybody each week wants to know about: game balls and lackeys. I will I'll let Nate go first because I think we know his lackey, everybody. Who's your lackey, Nate Vance?
My lackey is Josh Allen for selling the Buffalo Bills Mafia once again and letting us all down. I mean, four turnovers. We can't have that, man. I mean, two of the turnovers weren't his fault. That the one in OT, Brandon Cooks has got to come up with that ball. He placed it right in the bucket. And then the other time, the left tackle Deion Dawkins completely missed his block on Nick Benito, and he just got strip sacked in like 2 seconds. So I don't blame those on him. But The interception, his first interception, that can't happen. We literally had just gotten a turnover, interception, got the ball back, and then he goes right back and throws it into double coverage. Can't happen. And then the one before half was the worst one when he's just holding the ball out. There's 17 seconds left, and he just gives the Broncos a free 3 points, and that's the game right there. That's the game right there. All we had to do was have 3 more points, and we win that game. So my lackey is most definitely Josh Allen this weekend.
I knew it was coming, folks. All right, Kevin, who you got?
First, I want to say the people that are most pissed off in Buffalo are the makers of the collapsible tables. Now they don't have another week or two to sell more tables being broken right now, so they can move on with that. It's got to be the guy I wanted it to be after we got off the air last week, and he followed up with another game. C.J. Stroud, absolutely horrible, horrible in those situations. In two playoff games, you have one playoff game and you got to win. You shake it off, right? You kind of right the mechanism a little bit. He came back and did the same thing again. C.J. Stroud, there's no denying he's a two-time lackey of the week.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was going. Nate's like, you better pick Josh Allen, and I thought about it, and then my pick was C.J. Stroud, but Kevin took that. I'm going to give it to the officials. I'm tired of this BS where, it's a catch, it's not a catch, and then these flags are ridiculous. So they threw two flags at the end against the Bills and kind of helped the Broncos out. But there was a play before that where Riley Moss was grabbing at the receiver, and they said, "Oh no, they're fighting for the ball there." You know what I mean? And it's just like Kevin and I talked about before Nate came on. I don't need Gene Steratore or all these guys making this money, these rules officials. They don't even have them on because you know what? I could get a parrot and say, "Oh, they're right." The right call was right on the field. And the problem they have is everybody now has slow mo, and we can see all the angles with our nice 4K TVs and everything, and our eyes don't lie. Okay, we know what a catch is and not a catch. And a penalty, not a penalty, but they're just going to spin it the way they want to. And Roger Goodell, they pay him what $40 million a year. Some he's going to parrot exactly what's going on. So I'll give it to the NFL officials. My thing is get it consistently right, because you consistently get it wrong, and then you try to backtrack and make all kinds of They had all these tweets out there, guys, where it was like defending their side, pointing, rather than just say, you know what, the officials are wrong. But we'll never see that happen. So they're my lackeys. I'll give my game ball winner. I'm giving it to Rashid Shaheed. I mean, he had no catches in this game, but he had two rushes for 27 yards and a first down. But that kickoff return broke that game. First play of the game, 95 yards for a touchdown to the house, and Seattle never looked back.
Yeah, Shaheed definitely set the tone for that game. My game ball also is going to come from the same game. Kenneth Walker the third, busting out over 100 yards, grinding the clock, and not only punching in one, not two, three touchdowns he punched in that game. So, I mean, I got to give him some flowers on that one.
Nate, who you got?
Yeah, that's a good pick. That was going to be my pick, so I had to scramble a little bit. But I thought my dad was going to give it to this guy. I'm going to give it to the guy that beat my team. He played an awesome game. Bo Nix. I feel for him, man. That's got to be terrible. Trying to live out your lifelong goal of making it to the Super Bowl, and he just breaks his ankle on the last play of the game on a dumb play too, on a QB sweep that didn't get any yards. I feel for him. But he played a great game. He was 26 for 46 for 279 yards and three touchdowns, and he led his team in rushing 29 yards. He really did everything out there for him. He was carrying them. I wasn't a big Bo Nix guy before this game. I didn't think he was very good, but he really did earn my respect. And he really is a good player in this league, and people need to stop hating on him so much and actually need to watch the game because he's a good quarterback, man. And yeah, I feel for him, and really does suck that he broke his ankle.
Yeah, that was unfortunate for Bo Nix, and we're going to talk about the other games coming up, and they're going to have to get it done with Stidham, and it's going to be under head Super Bowl winning head coach, to get it done. So we're here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 102.9 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. I'm here with Kevin Midgette, Nate Vance, and we broke down the divisional round. We talked about the coaching carousel, and now we're going to jump to the two games. They kept going mute for a second, getting echo. Uh, yeah, it's a situation where you got two games coming up. I'm actually looking forward to these two things and seeing how these games shake out. I already started looking at the early lines, guys, and it's going to be interesting to see where the money goes in terms of these. But we'll start with the game I was just kind of previewing. You get the New England Patriots 15-3. They are at the Denver Broncos 15-3. New England has been installed as a 5.5 point favorite over under 41.5. This game will be on CBS Paramount Plus. First meeting of 2025 for these two teams. The last time they met, I went back and looked. It was 2023, Week 16. New England won 26-23 at Denver, and the big star was Kevin's guy. Ezekiel Elliott had a receiving touchdown in the game. So, but this one is going to come down, I believe, to the quarterbacks are like Nate kind of says, they're kind of getting carried, these two squads. Stidham definitely is going to have RJ Harvey. If they can get back Dobbins from that foot injury, he's going to need Cortland Sutton to have some catches, Ingram, and then their defense first and foremost under Vance Joseph. I mean, they've been attacking. They led the NFL with 68 sacks. Um, just all over the place. Zach Allen, Benito, Cooper. They're going to need all those guys. So I still am going to lean towards the Patriots in this one. You may see, that Super Bowl. It's crazy how this is all playing out. Tom Brady's first Super Bowl win, it was the Patriots versus the Rams. So we'll see. What do you think in terms of this matchup? We'll start with Kevin first.
I think there's a lot of ways this could go. I think the Patriots win this game first and foremost. Let's get that out of the way. I would be shocked if Denver comes out and wins that game. They need a lot of things to go their way, a lot of bounces. Denver's defense, I think, will keep them in it. I don't think New England's necessarily going to blow them out, but I can see them wearing them down in the second half and taking them by double digits. But if New England wins, you got all kinds of scenarios right there. You got the rematch with Seattle. You can get there the Malcolm Butler game. You can get that one in. You sit there, you get him against the Rams. You got the Tom Brady factor right there. So New England's a sell for the NFL right now. Imagine the NFL trying to sell a Super Bowl with Jarrett Stidham. That's going to be a tough sell.
I agree with you. What do you think, Nate?
I don't know. We might have a little Nick Foles situation on our hands here. Maybe Jarrett Stidham can do it, maybe not. But I'm not going to be the guy to bet against the Patriots. I got the Patriots winning this one. I like it in a low scoring game. I think it's going to be 20-14. The Patriots win it and they advance and go back to where they belong in the Super Bowl. I just don't think Jarrett Stidham is good enough to elevate this roster. I think you're going to see Bo Nix do a lot of carrying with this roster. They don't have a good run game. They don't have consistent wide receivers on the outside of Cortland Sutton. Their defense is a little bit fraudulent. It can be had against good offenses. And I think that's what they're playing in the Patriots. I think they're gonna be able to control the game, and I think they're gonna be able to win this game.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of coming down the same side, and you hate to say it was a foregone conclusion before they even played the game, and I watched so many games over the years. I still remember Rich Q and I sitting in the studio in Wilmington at another station breaking down the 2007, Super Bowl when the Patriots were undefeated, 19-0, and they were playing the Giants who squeaked into the playoffs. No one gave them a chance, but somehow, some way, it just turned out where the Giants, who nobody thought had a chance, could win. So, and Nate pointed out the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles with Nick Foles. Hey, look, he heard me that whole year saying they're done. They're done. There's no shot with this guy. And I had talked to Foles in the locker room so many times. Really nice guy. I think Kevin, Foles did some extra praying. because he was
Because
a
he was a
very
very
religious
religious
guy.
guy.
Do you
Do you
think
think
that
that
Stidham
Stidham
could
could
be?
be?
Oh,
Nick Foles has had success in the league before he got thrust into that backup position with the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. He's had success, you know. He had the Pro Bowl season. Stidham doesn't have any of that. And Nate hit the nail on the head. The thing that's going to hurt Denver is they can't run the ball. They can't. Harvey and McLaughlin are not going to be able to sit there and grind that clock to keep Drake May and their offense off the field. And that's what's going to come back to hurt them. If you have a backup quarterback and you have a good running game, you can kind of hide them a little bit. You get in a situation where he's got to throw the ball, now you're in trouble.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
going to
it's
be
going to be
interesting.
interesting.
It's going to be interesting because with Stidham playing, and we'll see how he does. But yeah, we all kind of agree. Okay, it's probably the Patriots game, but Milton Williams and them do got to get pressure. Watch for Christian Gonzalez. I think he makes a pick, maybe a pick six in this game that kind of breaks things open. The other game seems to be a lot more interesting. You got the LA Rams 14-5. They're at the Seattle Seahawks 15-3. The early line is Seahawks by 2.5, over and under 47.5. Games at 6:30 p.m. on Fox, and as I said, a rubber match here. Week 11, the Rams beat the Seattle Seahawks 21-19. Darnold had 279 in that game, but he had no touchdowns. He had 4 interceptions. Uh, Seattle came back in week 16. They won over the Rams 38-37 in overtime. This could be that type of game. Darnold got the big 2-point conversion, this one for the game winner. He did have to overcome 2 interceptions. Stafford was spectacular in this one, 29-49, 457, 3 TDs in this game. And guys, I got to harken back to last year in the wild card round. Don't forget, Sam Darnold was on a 14-win Vikings team, and they lost 27-9 to the Rams. In that game, Darnold was had 1 interception and he was sacked 9 times. So I think he's going to be seeing ghosts again. I really believe it's going to be a close game, but I think the Rams, as we said, they can run the football. Kyron Williams and Corum, they have probably the two best receiver combination in the National Football League, Nakua and Devontae, and I just think their defense is underrated underneath Chris Shula. I expect the Rams to win a close one, and as I said, you're going to see the parallels. You're going to have the Brady's first time around, the Patriots versus the Rams. What do you think, Nate? You can go first.
Yeah, I like the Rams too. Uh, I think this is better the week right here, better the week material. Take Sean McVay as a dog, um, getting these points. I think I don't trust Sam Darnold, and he has this oblique injury too that he sustained last week in practice, and I just don't think he's going to be ready. The Rams are really good at stopping the run, so this is going to put. That's what they've done in both games that they've played Seattle, and so they're going to have to be able to win on the back of Sam Darnold. I just don't think he's capable of that. And I think Stafford, as a savvy veteran he is, I think he's just going to control the game, get the ball to Puka and Devontae, and control this game. I think they're going to walk out of here with a win.
All right, so you guys got the Rams. So I'll be devil's advocate here. I'll take Seattle. I'll take the USC quarterback. And it's just for the fact there's so much familiarity with these guys. They know each other up and down. They played against each other twice already. There's no surprises. I do like McVay better in this situation. I will say that much. I just think Seattle playing at home is a huge, huge advantage. And yeah, it's going to be who has the ball last kind of game, I think. But yeah, since you guys picked the Rams, I'll take Seattle. How about that?
It's going
It's
to be
going to
interesting, guys, because you have Mevis on the other side, first year kicker, thicker kicker. I mean, and he's been kicking the ball well for them. He hasn't missed any kicks. Uh, that was their Achilles heel, the Rams. They had to change their long snapper, and then after that Eagles loss where Jordan Davis blocked the kick and ran it for a touchdown, they really kind of changed that special teams operation. McVay, if it comes down to it, I McVay's been there before, and you're going against McDonald, who's this is his first time around in this big situation game. They have some great young players, but as you guys were saying, I just think Darnold he's going to Darnold. You know what I mean? And I just think he's going to struggle in this one, especially when Verse and Fisk get some heat on him. And their defense is very opportunistic. You saw that against Chicago Bears. Their corners have sticky hands. Durant is playing extremely well for them in the secondary. Lake, um, and the rest of the group back there. So I think it will be the Rams in this one. Any last thoughts here on Lloyd Vance Inside Football for the week? What you got, Kevin?
I think it's once again the thing that stood out to me this past weekend: 20 turnovers in 4 games. 20 turnovers. I mean, I know there were some games where the weather was a little, less than, what you would want, but at the same time, you have to protect the ball in the playoffs. It's the first thing you get. If you lose the turnover battle, you're going to lose the games, and that's what we saw. So we're going to see this week coming up what defenses can turn the ball over. That's the big swing right there, and we'll see how much the officials want to be involved in the outcomes of these games.
Nate, any final thoughts before we close out?
Yeah, I feel bad for my boy Sean McDermott. He was scapegoated, man, and I feel for him, man. And but the Bills are going to be back next year, and who knows? Maybe next year will be the year.
That's the mantra right there, Nate. Next year's your year, man. We all said it.
Yeah, those early Andy Reid years, where the Eagles got closed. I remember all of my friends and family, even I was saying it. Oh, oh, they'll be back. Well, eventually it just runs out. You know what I mean? And I still remember it was Easter Sunday where they traded McNabb to Washington, and all the bad taste was out. A lot of Philadelphia fans mouths, and then soon after, Andy Reid, they let him go too. So it's crazy how the ball bounces. But yeah, another great week here at Lloyd Vance Inside Football on 1029, the Game Coast Sports Digital Network. I appreciate Kevin and Nate coming on, and Angel doing a great job behind the glass. And yeah, everybody enjoy the games. There'll be more to talk about, and we'll see if our Super Bowl matchups come to fruition. And I'm not sure how national championship's going, but uh, I'm rooting for Indiana, so we'll see how that goes. We'll talk to you later here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 Game, the Coast Sports Digital Network. Peace.